great. How are you?
Pretty good, pretty good. Well, let's go ahead and get started. And, if there's any questions along the way, please feel free to ask. I'm all about answering your questions. So please, definitely ask. So we start with, of course, invest in what you do best. That's what my class is always called. And, I have the changing market. So, this particular class is about the changing market, but it's also about being a little bit creative. And we're going to touch on a few different points in the investment world, mostly single family investing. So just the disclosures, I'm not offering legal advice. Please talk to real estate attorneys for that. Wholesaling involves drawing legal documents, and please talk to an attorney for that. Did I just let that person in? Or what I did? 1 second, sorry. Yeah, I think I let her in. Did I let her in? Yeah. Oh, okay, it's going down now. Okay. All right, so like I said, you can definitely unmute yourself and ask questions. So anyway, let somebody new come in. This is all legal. We use attorneys and title companies. All right. So about me, I've been investing for 13 years. I've been a realtor for 11 of those last 13 years. I've wholesaled and flipped over 450 properties ranging from 2,000 in profit to 135,000 in profit. And I've helped and benefited from a business partner of mine who's accumulated over 430 doors. We call them doors because a lot of those were apartment complexes. So, all right, so we always go over this every class because it's that important. And this is the golden rule for investing in single family homes. And most all professional investors in Houston use this formula. All right, so the formula is, first we have to find our ARV. So that stands for after repair value. So if we have a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, and I just left an appraisal this morning on a house we have, and so when we bought that, it had a hole in the roof, so there was mold everywhere. It was outdated. The AC didn't work, things like that. Well, we're not comparing the houses that look like that. We're going to say, okay, what houses in the neighborhood are already fixed up, either a flip or a seller did a nice job on their redo, and what did those sell for, right? So that's how we get our after repair value, okay? Same square footage, beds, baths, subdivision, like we normally do as realtors. So then we're going to need that 70% of that, all right? What is that? 70 grand. And for this example, the ARV is 100, so it's 70 grand. And it's going to need 20 in repairs. So I'm going to buy it for 50. Okay. And so we talk a little bit about wholesaling also. So if you get that under contract for 40 grand, I will pay you $10,000 for your contract. Okay. Does that make the numbers make sense? All right. So let's move on. That is the golden rule. That's what all professional investors in Houston pay. Now, or do some pay more? Sure, right? I mean, the guys that are buying, 3 or 4 a year, sure, right? I bought 13 in the last three months. So we want to ramp that up. We want to buy 15 the next 3 months. So we use this formula. All right. So, just changing market overview. Anyone notice the market changing? What is changing? What else who else is noticing the change? So I think there's 2 things going on. I think with the coronavirus thing and everything that's affected, I feel like the first, a couple of months ago, people were scared to list their property, so listings were down like 30%, right? So in effect, the houses that went on the market are now super hot, right? Because that's all there is, right? Like I just left a neighborhood where out of, there's pending in solds, there's like 13 of them, there's only 1 active, right? So very little to choose from. And so I feel like on the sell side, it's very hot right now, especially in certain price points. But is that going to change? I just want to kind of, have debate on that. I think, you have your forbearance. So, and I believe we're going to talk about that a little bit, but you have the forbearance of people that lost their jobs. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about that and see if we think that is going to actually affect us and by how much, right? So I believe we're going to talk about that later. If not, I'm going to come back and discuss that some more. All right. So this is, so like I said, we're going to touch on a few things. We want to talk about, creative deals. So if you want to get creative on your deals, what ways can you be creative? And these are all the ways that I know of if you want to be creative with your deals. So if you're buying a property, could you buy it owner finance? You could. Could you sell it owner finance? You could, right? So that's a creative way of doing a deal. Subject to, not everybody's heard of a subject to. So what is a subject to? This was actually my very first flip, was a subject to. And so what happened there? So I talked to the seller, and the seller was behind on their note, and they were about to go to foreclosure, and they were behind about I think $4,000. And so I said, well, if you'd like, what I can do is I can take over your note subject to its existing financing with the bank. Okay. It's all legal documents, and you close at a title company as a subject to. Okay. And so then, so what I did is I took over her note. I caught her up on her notes. I paid the $4,000 she was behind. I brought the money. I actually borrowed private funds to fix up the property, which it was actually not that horrible. I used about $17,000 to fix it. And then I sold it, and we were both out of the deal, right? So that way I didn't have to bring the money for the purchase of the home. I just brought the money for the carrying costs, catching her up on her note, the fix-up costs, the ongoing monthly costs, all right? So that's being creative with the deal. Partnering is another one, and I believe we have examples of all of these, so I don't want to go into too much detail on each one, but partnering is definitely one way. Private money is another way. We'll talk about what is private money. Negotiating a no interest loan. Have you ever heard of that? Well, we'll talk about that. No payments on a loan. Have you ever wanted to get a loan and not have payments? We'll talk about that. And so I've done, let me see, substitute partnering, private money. I've done all of these except for one. Okay. So we'll talk about these. All right. So on that subject too, I kind of got ahead of myself, but I told you the story. Now here's the information I needed to know from the seller to see if it would be a good subject to. So I needed to ask, well, how much do you owe? Right? Is there any, I'm not doing this for fun, right? Is there is there enough spread for to have a little profit and take care of her, right? So what is your interest rate, right? It's good to know. Did you buy this on a 30-year term? And if so, how many years are left on your term? So if she bought it on a 30-year term and she's 24 years in, what does that tell you? Well, her note hasn't changed, but the house is going to be paid off in 6 years, right? So what is your monthly payment? Does that include taxes and insurance, right? Is that escrowed? And of course, we need to know repair costs. And if all this lines up, then for what I'm looking for on a subject to, then we can do the deal. Okay. All right. So owner financing. You can owner finance as a seller and a buyer, right? Correct. So you can sell a deal owner financing. So who would owner financing work for, or why would you do owner financing? Well, maybe the buyer doesn't have everything they need to get a loan, right? Could be a business owner that doesn't report a lot, that they make a lot of money on their taxes, which, if with the help of a CPA can be a good thing. Could be someone that just can't get a loan for other reasons, right? There's many reasons out there. So owner financing a house out would be another creative way to sell your property. So, you know, there is a loan that I know you can get that can be what's called wrapped. And it's actually with, I'll give them a shout out, ILS.cash. That's a biggest hard money company in Houston. And so you can get a loan with them, and you can wrap your note. So your note is at 7%. And if you look on HAR, actually, 10% is the going rate for owner finance. Okay. So you make a little spread there. Of course, you brought the property at a discount, right? And you fixed it up, so you've earned some equity there. You know, they have a down payment they put down. So usually you want to get about 15 to 20%. So, you know, you're making money in multiple ways already, right? So one thing you got to know though is owner financing an appreciating asset or a depreciating asset? Anybody have a guess? I'm gonna ask everybody to unmute. Anybody have a guess if it's a appreciating or depreciating asset?
Depreciating?
What's that?
Depreciating?
It is correct. Yeah, most people don't get that right away. Yeah, it is a depreciating asset, right? So you know, rentals are an appreciating asset, and owner financing is a depreciating asset. Why? Because every time they make that note payment and they put that down payment, guess what? They owe you less, right? So it's depreciating, right? And you're not going to gain, like rentals, you're not going to gain appreciation from your rentals because you don't own it anymore. You know, you don't own it anymore, and it's now sold, right? So you just got to keep that in mind. That's why I like a mix. I like a mix of rentals and owner finance. So you know, at the end of the day, an owner finance is a flip that you take in payments. If you hold the note long term, you know, if you ever look at an amortization schedule, you know, that, you know, all your buyers are getting these loans all the time. Would be good to look at an amortization schedule. It shows if you, and I'm just using hypothetical numbers, but if you get a loan for 200 grand, at the end of the day, if you go the full 30 years, you're actually paying, you know, probably closer to 350,000, right? So if you hold that note long term, you are going to make a lot more money, right? Anyways, it's just another way of being, of having a creative deal. All right. We talked about that. All right. So partnering. So the good and the bad about partnering, and I know a lot of people when they're new, they're like, oh, I'm just going to find somebody to partner up with, right? Which I think at the end of the day, new people do that because they really just want a backbone, right? Or they want somebody that can give them courage, right? And they won't be so scared, spread the risk, right? But you really should only partner if the people are bringing something to the table, right? If they're either bringing money, construction, they're bringing money, construction, or some other asset that they can use for, you know, to sell the home. So you know, with my experience, the good part about partnering is you really don't have any payments, right? You're spreading the risk around. As you see on the bad side, I have a lot more there. So the bad side is it's much cheaper to borrow hard money, even if you're borrowing at 18%, than to partner with someone, right? If you just run the numbers, right? So, you know, depending on what you're giving away in your partnership. So usually people think partnerships are 50-50, right? You're basically paying 50% for, if they're bringing the money, 50% on that money for using their money, right? So usually when I partner, you know, I do all the work and the partner is providing the money, or this is a good example of a typical partnership. And so at the end of the day, if you are competent, you have a good deal, the money for these deals are everywhere. Okay, you can use hard money. That's if it fits in your deal, if it your deal should be able to support borrowing that money, right? If you're buying at the right ratios that I teach. All right. So anyways, partnering can be, like I say, good and bad, and those are the good and bad points that I see. Okay. All right. So private money. What is private money? Let's talk about that, because I use private money, and I have used private money for 13 years now. So private money is typically you borrow from an individual that has money in their checking account, 401k, or yes, their IRA. Yes, you can loan on real estate from your IRA or your 401k. Actually just borrowed from an IRA yesterday. We closed on a deal. All right. So these loans happen all the time, right? They're just not talked about a lot. Okay. So Quest IRA is actually the biggest third-party administrator for IRAs and 401ks. Okay. So I'm sorry, they changed their name. It was Quest, and now it's Intrust. Intrust. They changed their name. So typically private money, I'll borrow from and I'll be all in on the property at 70 to 75% of the ARV, of the after repair value, so of the value, right? And this is how I protect the lenders and myself, right? So for me, lenders always come first, right? They come first before I eat, right? I make sure I take care of my lenders because they're loaning me a big amount of money, right? And then when I borrow for rentals, so if I want to keep it as a rental, I'll buy it, fix it, get a tenant in there, and then I'll go to the bank and refinance, and then we'll cash out the private lender, and then we'll just keep recycling the money if they want to keep putting their money to use. Okay, so that's private money, and it's really helpful. Okay, I've actually never used hard money in the typical sense, right? Not saying that you shouldn't use it. It's just if you don't have private money available, hard money is a great another way to get the deal done. Okay. So we're going to talk about this one. This is an interesting one, and we're just talking about being creative and deals that I've seen that are creative. So Tom Barry, he actually owns ILS.cash, which is the biggest hard money company in Houston. We started real estate together, and he's a successful real estate investor that I know. And so when we started 13 years ago, he actually could just never pass up on a good deal, right? Now that just wasn't for real estate, okay? So he actually was, burning and churning, buying a lot of houses, fixing them up, and selling them or keeping them as rentals. And so he had to get a lot of these dumpsters, for trashing out these homes, right? So the guy who owned the dumpster company, he actually fell and hurt himself, and he had to go back to his state. And he told Tom, he said, Tom, you're my biggest customer. Do you want to buy my company? And he gave him a really good deal, right? And Tom was like, all right. So while he was redoing the homes, multiple homes at once, he's running this, this company really for himself. And then he actually got somebody to help run that. But anyways, he was going to a house in Texas City on 1764, I believe. And he was bringing a dumpster to her. And this lady was just, fussing, right? She's like, these renters, and they keep tearing these properties up, and man, it's just such a pain, and he's like, well, why don't you sell them? And she said, well, nobody would buy these. He's like, that kind of light bulb, for Tom. And he was like, well, I might be interested, right? So she's like, really? It's like, yeah. So so the lady at the time, it was a 1-bedroom and then a 3-bedroom, and she was collecting 500 for the 1-bedroom and 800 for the 3-bedroom. And at the time, those were low rents because she just didn't really fix them up that nice, you know. So Tom said, well, what would you want for it? And she said, well, you know, could you pay 60,000? Which, you know, for 2 houses, that all sounds good, but Tom said, well, he couldn't do 60, but he could do 45,000 cash or 55,000 if she wants to be creative, right? And she, well, what does that mean? Well, if you will take it in payments, then I can pay that. So she was collecting $1,300 a month, right, before. So he goes, what if I pay you $1,300 a month, which is what you were collecting with the tenants who you're sick of, and you don't even have to mess with these houses again, renting them, fixing them up, finding tenants, you know, all this that she obviously doesn't like. So I'll pay you the $1,300 a month over the next 3.5 years, or 42 months, which would equal 55,000. So she agreed to that. Okay. So he ended up fixing the houses, and he collected $1,550 on the 3-bedroom, and I think it was $850 on the 1-bedroom. So he's getting more now, right? Once they're fixed, and so he's cash flowing from the difference, $1,300 to what he was collecting. And what did he just negotiate? He negotiated a loan, no interest, that's going to be paid off in 3.5 years, right? That's pretty cool. Is there anything wrong with that? The seller was happy with that. The buyer was super happy with that. The tenants are happy. They got a good place to live. You know, they're paying market rent because the houses are fixed up. And so, you know, everybody was happy in that situation. But, you know, so we're talking about these just to keep your mind open if you're trying to buy a property, and talking to a seller about being creative with deals, right? So yeah, I kind of got ahead of myself there. All right, so bank money. What does bank money look like when I go to refinance? Well, I'm not getting your FHA, your VA, your conventional loans. I'm not. What I'm getting is a commercial loan for a single family residence, right? For a single family home. All right. So why do they call it a commercial loan if it's for a single family? Well, the loan is a commercial loan. Actually, so I was doing business with Texas Citizens, which is, I can walk across the street there, and they actually do not have a license to give a loan for someone to live in the home, but they can do commercial loans. So what does that look like? Well, a commercial loan typically, you know, when you have these regular buyers that are buying off of HAR, they're typically getting 20 to 30-year loans, right? So these loans that I get from commercial, they're pretty much maxed at 20 years. They're usually 15 to 20-year amortization schedule, right? So your payments are based on 15 to 20 years. Now, they will put a balloon note in there at about 5 years. So the whole amount is due in 5 years, okay? Uh-oh, what happens then, right? Should we be scared? No, you shouldn't. What's going to happen then is typically I'm going to either sell it or I'll just refinance it with the bank. The only reason they put a balloon note in there is because they want to make sure their money is being used. They're getting the best rate of return on their money. So if the stock market is up and interest rates are up, interest on it goes deep, right? But basically interest on the American money is going up, right? We're paying more interest, right? So will my loan go up in 5 years? Yes, it will, right? But I'll just refinance and keep it with them, and I'll owe less, and it'll all work out, right? Because my payment will probably be lower anyways, because I owe less. Anyways, so you know, and they'll loan at 70 to 75% of the ARV. Where do you think we get that? Well, we need to refinance out of these sometimes for rentals, right? And that's what banks loan. All right. I did hear of a couple loaning at 80%, but typically most of these loan at 70 to 75% of the of the appraisal value. So some of my first deals I refinanced was actually pretty interesting. I was in at about 65% of the value, and I talked to the commercial lender, and they said, well, we're loaning 70%. I said, okay, you know, I owe 65%. He's like, yeah, we'll loan 70%. I said, okay. I said, so what's going to happen with that 5% difference, right? I'm guessing, right? So, you know, I was like, are they going to give me money? Are they going to be okay with that, right? So I go to closing, and there's about $7,000. It was 2 homes, actually. I was refinancing at the same time, same neighborhood, same seller. Anyway, there was about $7,000 difference on each home. So I go to refinance the home, and yeah, there it was. They're paying me to refinance with them. So I put $14,000 in my pocket for refinancing with them, right? They loan me 70% of the value. So, you know, those houses were really good, really good deals. But how many of those houses can you do when the bank is paying you to do them? So obviously no money out of your pocket, you're actually being paid. As many as you can get, right? Right? So, you know, just keep that in mind. You know, another way of being creative, all right? Now, that 14 grand, do you think that money, and I'd like somebody to answer, do you think that money was taxed or no? Did I have to pay taxes on that? Anybody have a guess?
No,
Somebody say something?
no, you don't have to pay taxes on it.
I don't have to pay taxes. Why? Because it's a loan. It's a loan, right? It is a loan at the end of the day. So you don't have to pay taxes on a loan. It's not income, right? So that 14 grand stayed in my pocket, okay? All right, so I try to do this on every class, and everybody likes to see these real deals, real numbers. This is actually the house I just left for the appraisal on an hour ago. But this is a house in League City. My my lead for my wholesale assistant group, Jake, he actually followed up with this one for a year, and we finally got it, okay? So we bought it. We got it under contract for, it had a hole in the roof, mold everywhere. It needed a ton of work, right? So we actually got it under contract for $65,000. I paid Jake $7,000 wholesale fee, all right, for bringing that to me. So he made $7 grand. Our construction costs, and when you see we know our numbers, was $30,426.18. Well, our budget was $35,000, so we're already making money, all right? So I have this because I did this class earlier, but we listed it a while back. Anyways, in 2 days, we got 10 offers. This is in League City. We got 10 offers, and I listed for 165, and we got 180 for it. 15,000 over asking. And originally I bought it thinking it was worth 160, right? So that was my numbers that I bought it on. Now, we'll see what the appraisal comes in at, but I went up there, I met her, I gave her the 10 offers that we received. I gave her our breakdown of what we spent, everything on the property. And then there was actually one comp that might be helpful on this one. So she was like, well, thanks, you were really prepared. And yeah, you know, it feels like it looks good, right? So we'll see. But yeah, that one turned out really good. We should have a net profit on that one, cash in our pocket, of about $50,000. So that was a really good deal, right? That's a home run. Right? You know, that's a home run percentage-wise, right? The house is only worth hopefully 180, right? 165 to 180, but really good deal. All right, so then I just kind of want to give you an idea. I didn't have pictures, but I put this on my Facebook. Please, you know, Facebook me if you want. Nathan Haley, I'll add you. But this is a house off of MLK area, and this one needed everything. This one needed foundation. I mean, the frame. You see all that new framing? That's because, you know, when we ripped the sheetrock out, the frame was not touching the concrete, right? So it needed new framing, AC, roof, whole interior, it needs everything, right? So, so the wholesaler knew it needed a ton of work, and he'll sell it to me, and I bought it for 50,000. All right. So, let me look here. Yeah. So the wholesaler actually got this one under contract, and I don't know how he got a really good deal. He got it for 17,000. So I paid. So he made $33,000 wholesale fee. Why? Because he's got such a good deal. It's because he got such a good deal. I'm still making money. I don't care what he makes. I really don't. I care what I make, right? And if it's good for my numbers, right? But yeah, he made $33,000 on that deal. Okay. So the budget was 40 grand. We actually went over. We spent 45. So you know, we saved 5 over there. We spent 5 over here. It's kind of how it goes, right? And we're going to list it actually this week for 150,000. So are we going to make money? Sure. Is the wholesaler going to make money? Yeah, he made money, right? So, so you know, those are just current deals that are going on. We've got a ton of other deals going on. I bought 13 deals in the last 3 months, like I said, and we're looking to ramp up and do 15 more in the next 3 months. I actually need 1 more, and then I'm taking a vacation, a month off. So, but I'm still, you know, we still have people working here. We're still buying deals, right? So, you know, if y'all ever run across a deal like this, or just a house that just needs a ton of work, and you know, typically as realtors, you're telling them to fix the property up. Well, maybe they don't have the money, right? Maybe they're going to foreclosure. Maybe they're getting divorced. Maybe it wasn't inherited property and they're not going to put their money in it. Maybe these are all examples of deals that I buy all the time, right? So if you ever come across those, please reach out to me. I'm going to give you all my info. My number is 281-683-2229. I'm going to put it up here. It's going to be backwards, but just reach out to me. Yeah, just reach out to me. Call me or text me. If you didn't get the number, there it is. And I would love to help y'all, and I would love to pay you guys. You see, I pay well if you get a good deal, right? So, you know, and if you don't know how to do the contract and, you know, wholesale, it is a different way of doing paperwork and all this. Just call me and I'll walk you through it, and we'll both make money on it. So, all right, guys, hope y'all enjoyed the class. That's all I got today. We'll be going over a whole another set of deals and learning next class. So it'll be next month. So I hope y'all can make it. We'll be sending out, you know, when it's going to be and all that. So keep your eyes open. But I hope y'all got some value out of the class. You learned something, and I hope we can work together. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.